You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristodoulou.
Welcome back, everyone, to more of the Greeks Gridiron, and happy NFL Draft Day. It is April 28th, 2022, and at 8 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, the NFL Draft will kick off round number 1, and we will begin to see how these teams will take shape with their newest rookie additions. I hope that you are as excited as I am. We are wrapping up our on-the-clock draft preview series this morning, and I'm going to finish things off with my personal favorite team, the Indianapolis Colts. So my Colts fans, make sure you comment down below who you want to see the team go after in this year's NFL Draft. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the post-draft content we'll be doing on the show, and let's dive right into it. So, with the draft starting off tonight, the Colts actually don't have a first-round selection. Our first pick is at 42 in the second round. So the way I will be doing this order here is I will do a day 3 selection. So if you're not sure, day 3 is anywhere from rounds 4 to round 7. I will then talk pick number 73 in the third round and then pick 42 there in the second round. So for my day 3 selection here, it's starting to seem a little more, I don't want to say 100% certain on this, but it's starting to feel like there's going to be a little bit of a competition at the left tackle spot where like Pryor is going to get an opportunity. The Colts gave him a contract this year, and it's just interesting to me that they had not really prioritized left tackle in this year's free agency. I would have expected them to go after one of the bigger names that were on the market. Like, I really thought that the Colts were going to go after maybe even, or at least, I don't know, maybe they did and they didn't like the money, but go after someone like Teron Armstead. And I understand his injury history, but it really felt like they were going to go after someone here. And I know Eric Fisher is still a free agent. I don't know if there's any interest on bringing him back with a sort of like a more team friendly deal. Who's to say maybe they don't circle back to that after the draft? We'll have to see, but I would like for them to go after an offensive tackle at some point in this year's draft. And if it's really an open competition because they're confident in Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly, and Braden Smith anchoring the O-line, then if that's the case, I would like them to go after a project player, an offensive tackle, Matt Waletzko out of North Dakota. This guy is the left tackle project in the draft at 6'8", 312 pounds, and he has a 36 1/8 wingspan. The dude's arms are massive, and I mean massive. He is praised for having excellent upper body strength. He's a physical, aggressive player, and in the last 2 seasons, he has allowed a fat 0. That is a goose egg amount of sacks, and I really like what he brings to the table physically. Now, it seems like more the techniques and things like that are the issues here. Balance is a slight concern, with core strength being a problem there, and he can be laid off at the snap at times, which allows a defender to get the first move on him. Excuse me. And sometimes he tends to play a little bit too high, and it allows defenders to get underneath his pads and kind of control his movement. So there's a lot of technical things that need to be, worked out with him as a player, especially if he's going to be playing the left tackle blindside spot. But overall, you cannot, and I repeat, you cannot teach the size and physical traits that this guy has. He is an absolute monster of a human being. And again, this is a project player. You're probably getting him in round like 5 at the earliest, maybe 6 or 7, because he's projected somewhere within that 5 to 7 range. This is someone I would like to see them go after if they're really doing like a competition type thing for the left tackle spot. So if it's not a super high priority and they prioritize a few other things and they think they can get away with Quentin Nelson, Kelly, and Smith being like the anchors for the offensive line, which I would agree to an extent, but this offensive line has definitely not been the same since Anthony Costanzo opted to retire a couple of years ago. I would be cool with them going after a guy like Matt Waletzko. I think he'd be an excellent project for the team to try to build up and turn into a premier guy, or even just an average left tackle start. Because if you're playing next to Quentin Nelson and you're learning from him, you'll probably end up being a better tackle than you actually are, per se, because you have someone anchoring right next to you that is so dominant at what he does. Looking at pick 73 now in the third round here, We're going to get into the defensive side of things, and I would like to see them go after some secondary help, more specifically at the cornerback position. I know we brought in Stephon Gilmore. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited about that draft pick, that free agent signing, rather. However, he is 31, and we do need to get a little bit younger at the position. We have Isaiah Rodgers, who I'm fairly impressed with. I love the way he played last year. I believe he came away with 3 interceptions on the season. Of course, Kenny Moore and Stephon Gilmore, those are like your 3 main cornerbacks, your headlining guys. And if we were to go after, and this guy sort of a project himself, cornerback Tariq Woolen out of UTSA. If you watched my Titans draft preview, I actually selected him to go there. But this draft here for the Colts is more of just who I really want the Colts to go after. Whereas when I was picking for all the other ones, a little less bias involved and more so just like rationally picking out players. And this is more like with the Colts, it's more like best case, like dream scenarios with realistic ideas in mind. But Tariq Woolen, man, the guy's physicals are just unbelievable. 6'4", 240 pounds. He runs a 4.2 640. I mean, you want to talk about just an absolute beast of a corner. I compared him to Aqib Talib in terms of size, not necessarily play, but just the size and physical traits. Big body dude, but still very athletic. That's kind of what I see with the potential that Tariq Woolen has. He's able to close distance quickly. He's shown positive growth over the last couple of years, and I mean, his game speed, like, because some players are really fast in the 40 and other players just end up not being as fast when it comes to actual game time. His game speed matches his 40-yard speed. And while he's only played cornerback for 2 years and, you know, he doesn't have like the true instincts of a cornerback yet, and his play recognition can use some work. It's going to take some time, and he tends to lack a little bit of commitment in the run. He's not necessarily the most sure tackler per se. He definitely needs some help with all that. This guy has all the potential in the world to evolve into a really good corner. And you have a guy like Gilly Locke and Kenny Moore to help learn from. I mean, this is a really good atmosphere with some excellent defensive leaders that could really show him the ways of the position he's playing, and potentially, even if he turns into like a really solid number 2 cornerback at his size with his physical attributes, I would be ecstatic to see a guy like him in the 3rd round be brought into the Colts. Really exciting guy overall. This is more a potential pick than anything else. Same with like Matt Waletzko there in day 3. But I mean, the Colts defense, really solid unit. We're looking for more depth than anything else. I'm really happy with the Yannick Ngakoue addition as well. I think the Colts have done a good job adding some veteran presence to the defense that should be impact playmakers. And I think that getting a guy like Woolen helps fill out the secondary a little bit more, again, with a ton of potential. And now for my round 2 pick 42 selection here. Matt Ryan just said this the other day. They think they have some guys over there in the wide receiver room. So yes, I am looking at wide receiver here. The one key thing I noted from that statement, and somebody else mentioned it as well, he didn't say we have some great guys in this room. He just said we have some guys in this room. I love what Michael Pittman's all about. Excellent wide receiver. I think he is going to turn into, more than likely, with the way he plays with the ball in his hands, a true number 1 wide receiver. Paris Campbell has not been able to stay healthy in the 3 or 4 years we've had him now, and I really wish he could have, because his potential was always there, and he has the elite speed and everything, but for whatever reason, the injury bug just, bit him and would not let go. And then after that, you're looking at guys like Ashton Doolin, Desmond Patton, and all these guys. I would like to see them go after a wide receiver, and someone who should be available right around that number 42 spot, because I'm expecting a fair amount of wide receivers taken within the 1st round and the early part of the 2nd, is wide receiver Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. This guy is awesome with the ball in his hands. He has great ball skills at the catch point. He can snag a ball, and it looks so effortless when he does it. He only had 2 drops out of 93 catchable passes this past season, so great hands. He's a great route runner with an ability to cut on the dime. This guy in the 2nd round is a very good wide receiver, and 2, excellent value at the position to be selecting. I would love to see them go after someone like Dotson. Now, He is a little bit smaller. He's 5'11". I believe he weighed in at about 179 pounds at the combine or something like that. It was within that range. Like they're 180, 182. I forget what the exact number was. So he could use a few extra pounds of meat on his body and put a little bit more muscle mass on, just to, worrying about injuries and getting slammed by some of these NFL, defenders. You definitely want to have a few extra pounds of muscle on your body there to be able to absorb some of those hits, especially if he ends up playing more on the inside than anything else. And with that, play strength is a concern, being brought down by arm tackles, and bigger corners might give him an issue, or even safeties, things like that, at the back end of his routes if he's jostling for position. But when I look at what Jahan Dotson brings to the table, and probably my favorite thing about him is that big thing I want to circle, the 2 drops out of 93 targets. I want sure hands. I want great route running. I want somebody who can play the game of wide receiver and play it with ease, and someone who makes it look easy like Jahan Dotson is the guy that I would love to see the Colts go after here. Now, there's a few other wide receivers I do have in mind. I just don't necessarily know if they're going to be available. I feel like as we're getting closer and closer to the draft, and especially today, there is so much up in the air with this year's draft class, especially at the wide receiver position. Nobody really knows the order at all that anyone's going to go in. And I even read a tweet just last night from someone who's supposedly an insider for the Jaguars saying that they're not even going after Aiden Hutchinson anymore, and that Travon Walker is going to be the pick for them. So nobody really seems to know what the heck is going on with this year's draft class, which I honestly like. It's more exciting this way. I don't like it when insiders start to get the, to get the tea and they're able to figure out who has a good idea of anyone going where. Like Evan Neal is supposedly even falling on people's draft boards now because of some medical thing that popped up. So there's a lot of intrigue in this year's draft, and the wide receiver position is no doubt among probably one of the more confusing positions to try to pick here, because there's so many teams that want to get a wide receiver like a Justin Jefferson, like a Jamar Chase, like a Tyreek Hill, like a Deebo Samuel type guy who's been rumored in all these trade talks here. There's a lot that can go down between now and the actual start of the draft, and a lot that I think is going to happen within that first round of the draft, because it seems like a lot of teams are willing to trade. But Jahan Dotson, I believe, should be available at 42, and I think he would be an excellent addition to the wide receiver corps, and especially now that we have Matt Ryan at the quarterback spot. But that is my draft preview for the Indianapolis Colts. Again, my Colts fans, let me know who you want to see the Colts go after in this year's draft. That is it for me. I appreciate you all for watching. Happy draft day, and I will catch you guys tomorrow with a draft recap and my USFL week picks for the 3rd week of the season. Have a good one.